Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another spine-chilling Reddit horror story. Tonight, I have a tale that still sends shivers down my spine, an experience that continues to haunt me. So, settle in, turn down the lights, and brace yourself for a story that could very well stay with you long after the night is over. This is my story. As the clock ticks past 4:44 a.m., the child's eyes seem to widen, almost as if it's aware of the time. You can feel your pulse quicken, your body frozen in place, unable to look away. Every instinct inside you screams to turn and run, to get out of there, but your feet won't move. It's like the mirror has a hold on you, pulling you in, forcing you to stay, to look deeper. You swallow hard, trying to break free from the child's gaze. But the longer you stare, the harder it becomes. The child's lips twist into a faint, unnatural smile, too wide, too eerie. It's as if it's mocking your fear, delighting in your hesitation, feeding off it. Your breath comes faster now, and that oppressive weight in the air only grows heavier. The buzzing of the light above becomes deafening, almost as if the entire room is vibrating with something unseen, something wrong. Something moves behind the child, flickering in and out of the shadows. You can't quite make it out, but your stomach churns. Whatever it is, it feels like it's alive, like it's watching you too, and it's getting closer. Suddenly, the child's head tilts, the empty eyes narrowing as if it's considering you, studying you. It steps forward, and the mirror ripples, the surface warping like water disturbed by a stone. The chill in the air intensifies, and now you can feel the presence behind you, growing closer, a tangible force closing in. You jerk back, breaking eye contact, but when you turn to look over your shoulder, there's nothing there. The bathroom door is still locked, the hallway still silent. It's just you, alone in this forsaken place. But when you look back at the mirror, the child is closer. It's almost as if it has crossed the boundary between the mirror and reality, inching toward you with every second that passes. Its lips part in a silent whisper, its voice nothing more than a faint breath against the back of your neck. A cold hand grips your heart as the realization hits you. This isn't just a reflection anymore. The child in the mirror is real, and it's getting closer. You can see the details now, the faintly glowing veins under its translucent skin, the sharpness of its teeth peeking from behind its smile, and that hollow emptiness in its eyes. The child isn't looking at you anymore, it's staring at something behind you, something that seems to linger just out of sight. The air is thick with dread. Every instinct in your body is telling you to run, but your legs won't obey. You're paralyzed, unable to tear your eyes away from the nightmare unfolding in front of you. The clock ticks, the time frozen at 4:44, as if mocking your helplessness. The temperature continues to plummet. Now, it feels like you're standing in a freezer, the cold seeping into your bones. Your breath is ragged, visible in the mirror like the vapor of your very soul escaping. And then, with an almost imperceptible sound, the child moves. It steps closer, its tiny feet making no sound on the cold tiles. Each step brings it closer to the mirror's edge, closer to you. You want to scream, to shout, to do something, anything, but the air has thickened around you, making even the smallest movement impossible. You can feel your heartbeat in your throat, your breath shallow, but no sound escapes your lips. The child's smile widens, impossibly wide, and the sound of its laughter fills the space around you. It's soft at first, like the rustling of dry leaves in the wind, but as it grows louder, it becomes more sinister, a high-pitched, disembodied sound that echoes through the room. The reflection begins to warp again, The bathroom tiles crack and stretch like they're being pulled by invisible hands. The walls shift, and the mirror itself grows larger, engulfing the room, the boundaries between the real and the unreal starting to blur. The child's laughter increases in volume, growing louder and louder until it's all you can hear. Your chest tightens, your breath hitching in your throat as you feel something cold, something unseen brush against the back of your neck. You whip around, but again, there's nothing there. No cold breeze, no shadowy figure, only the empty school and the creeping sense that something is very, very wrong. But when you look back at the mirror, the child has crossed the threshold. It's no longer a reflection. It's standing in front of you, in the very room you stand in. Its pale hand reaches out, the long, thin fingers stretching unnaturally, curling towards your face. And then, without warning, its fingers brush against your cheek, cold, icy, like death itself. You freeze, your body reacting before your mind can process what's happening. The mirror begins to shimmer again, and the child's face begins to distort. Its features melt, like wax dripping from a candle, merging into a shapeless, formless mass of darkness. The reflection cracks, and you hear a sudden, sharp noise, the sound of shattering glass. But when you blink, the child is still there, its face now a hideous void, staring into your soul with a hunger that chills you to the core. The whispers start again this time, clear and urgent, the words barely audible, but unmistakable. I want you. I need you. Come with me. The urge to run is overwhelming, but you can't. The mirror has you in its grasp. The space between you and the child now shrinking, the dark figure closing in. Every fiber of your being tells you to escape, but your body is numb, frozen in place, helpless. You feel the weight of the mirror's cold fingers around your wrist, pulling you forward, dragging you into its depths. You can feel yourself slipping away, drawn into the reflection, lost to whatever nightmare lies beyond the glass. And then, with one final chilling breath, you hear the voice again this time, not from the child, but from somewhere deeper, somewhere darker. It's 4:44. You've seen too much. Everything goes dark. When you finally open your eyes again, the school is silent. The bathroom is empty. The mirror reflects only your own confused, terrified face. You blink, unsure if what you've just experienced was a dream or reality. But the clock on the wall ticks to 4:45 a.m. And as you look at the reflection one last time, you notice something strange. For a brief moment, just before the light flickers and dies, the child's face appears behind you. Hollow eyes, silent smile. And then, everything goes black. The legend has been passed down for generations, whispered between the cracks of old houses and in hushed tones at night. It warns of a child, a ghostly figure, pale and unnervingly still, who resides in mirrors. But this is not the kind of ghost that lingers with shadows and a whisper. No, this child is something far more sinister. The tale tells of a rule. If you look into the child's eyes for too long, something terrible will happen. In that instant, when your eyes lock with theirs, you will feel the world shift beneath you. Your reflection will no longer be a mere mimicry of your movements. It will become something else, an opening, a passage, a doorway. It's as if the glass you once trusted to show you who you were has turned into something else entirely. A portal, a dark and empty void that leads to the realm of the dead. Once you've stared for too long, once the child's eyes have captured yours, you can never escape. Your reflection will steal your place. The moment your gaze wavers, it will be too late. The child will slip out from behind the glass, and you, the living, will be left behind, trapped in the mirror. It's not just a simple switch. No, the child's reflection will take your place in the real world. Your body, still walking, still moving, will become nothing more than an empty shell, a marionette controlled by an entity that no one can see. Your reflection, the one that smiles, speaks, moves, isn't you anymore. It's the child wearing your skin. The child whose only purpose is to live in your world while you remain trapped in a void of shadows. You will feel the pull of that void, that dark realm behind the glass. It will surround you, suffocating you with isolation. The longer you're trapped, the more the child's presence will consume you. You'll feel it, a coldness that creeps beneath your skin, settling into your bones, sinking deeper into your mind. It's an eternity of isolation, of hopelessness. The world you once knew will be nothing but a fading memory, distant and unreachable. The child, meanwhile, will live in your place. It will speak to your loved ones, walk in your shoes, make your choices. No one will ever know the difference. But for you, the living shell of your former self, time moves differently. Time in the realm of the dead isn't like time in the living world. There, it stretches and distorts, bending in ways that twist your perception of reality. You won't be able to cry out for help, to warn anyone of the danger that lurks behind the mirror. Your voice will be lost in the void, swallowed by the unfeeling glass. You won't be able to reach out, to make contact with the world you once knew. The space you occupy in the dead realm is vast, and it will stretch on forever. For the first few moments, you might feel the faint stirrings of hope. You might think that somehow, someone will notice your absence, that someone will realize that the body they see walking through the halls is no longer really you. But that hope will fade. The longer you remain in that endless dark, the more that feeling of being forgotten will settle in. Your spirit, your essence, will wither away. The child will become more than just a reflection. It will become your replacement, your identity erased. And so, the legend endures. A warning one that many have heard, but few truly understand. Most dismiss it as nothing more than an old myth, a story designed to keep children from wandering too far in the night. But those who have dared to test the legend, who have dared to look into a mirror at exactly 4:44 a.m., are not so sure anymore. There are stories, countless tales told by students who stayed late in the school library, workers who remained after dark in office buildings, or those who lived alone in quiet homes, all reporting the same eerie encounter. At precisely 4:44 a.m., they found themselves staring into a mirror, their own reflection standing just inches away. And there, just beyond their own gaze, the child appeared. Some report feeling an icy chill in the air, a coldness that seems to penetrate deep into their bones. Others say they felt an overwhelming presence, a heaviness, a weight on their chest that made it difficult to breathe. And in that brief moment of contact, they saw the child. Its eyes, dark and hollow, would lock onto theirs. Some say it smiled a grin too wide, too unnatural. Others speak of the overwhelming sensation of being watched, of being not alone, but completely observed by something far older, far darker than anything they had ever known. And for some, it was the last thing they saw. Those who did return from that encounter were never the same. They came back changed, their eyes hollow, as though something essential had been ripped from them. They would speak of the child's gaze, of the coldness that still clung to them, even in the daylight. It was as if the child had followed them, watched them from the shadows, haunted their dreams, and whispered to them from the corners of their minds. They spoke of feeling replaced, as though something else had taken root inside them. They would often wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, heart racing, as though something or someone was standing just behind them. When they turned, no one was there, but the feeling never went away. It clung to them, lingering just out of sight, always watching. But despite these warnings, despite the stories of those who have disappeared or returned, there are always those who still dare to look, who think they can beat the curse or prove it wrong. They stand in front of their mirrors, waiting for the clock to strike 4:44, daring themselves to look into their own reflection, to see the child, to prove that they can survive, that they can look into the void and walk away unscathed. But can you truly survive it? Can you walk away from something so powerful, so unrelenting, that it can steal your very soul? It's a question that has haunted many, those who dared to confront the darkness, to defy the unknown. They all came to the same conclusion. No, you can't simply walk away. Once you've come face to face with the child, once you've dared to look into its eyes, you will never truly escape. Its presence lingers like a shadow, pressing on your chest, suffocating every thought, every action. It clings to you, and no matter where you go, no matter how far you run, it will always be there watching. Perhaps there is something in all of us, something deep within our human nature, that compels us to take the risk to challenge the stories, to look into the darkness and prove that we are stronger than the fear. We tell ourselves we can handle it, that we can control the situation. We think we are smarter, braver, more capable than the generations before us who trembled at the mere mention of the child. But that fear, once it's seated in the very marrow of your bones, can never truly be erased. It grows in the deepest corners of your mind, feeding on your doubts and your courage. The legend of the child is not just a story. It is a curse that binds you, and like any curse, it feeds on your thoughts, your memories, until there is nothing left but the question, what happens if I look away? It all begins with the mirror, a simple object, nothing more than a reflection of the world around you, right? But this is not a mirror like the ones you are used to. This is something older, something darker. When you stand in front of it at 4:44 a.m., something shifts. The air feels colder, the silence feels deeper. The reflection yours seems almost wrong. Your face is too still, your movements too slow, as if the mirror is holding you captive. But then, in the corner of your eye, you see it, the child. At first, it's a flicker, just a hint of movement, a blur in the reflection. You think it's your imagination. You've heard the stories, after all, and your mind is simply playing tricks on you. But as the seconds tick by, the flicker becomes a figure standing just behind you in the mirror's depths. A child. Small, pale, with eyes that are too large, too empty. Eyes that seem to reach into your very soul. You try to look away. You try to break the connection, to turn your back on the reflection and walk away. But something holds you there. Something pulls you in, like a force greater than your own will. The child's eyes are endless, dark, and they lock onto yours, unblinking. And you know, deep down, that if you break eye contact, something will happen. Something you cannot control. Something you cannot understand. The fear tightens around you, squeezing your chest, making it hard to breathe. Your mind screams at you to move, to escape, to do anything but remain in the presence of this child. But every time you try to look away, the child's gaze becomes more intense, more insistent, as if it is pulling you in, dragging you toward the very edge of the mirror. Its expression is unreadable, but there's something in those empty eyes, a hunger, a need. For those who have looked into the mirror at 4:44 a.m., the fear never leaves. It doesn't matter how many years have passed, how many nights you've tried to forget. It stays with you, like a shadow that never fades. It clings to the edges of your vision, waiting, always waiting. Every time you pass a mirror, every time you stand in front of one, you feel the child's gaze upon you. The whispers start soft at first, just a flutter of words at the back of your mind. Did you really see it? Or was it just your imagination? You begin to question everything. The memory of the child becomes distorted, like a dream slipping through your fingers. But you know, deep down, it's real. The child is real, and it's not done with you. The questions linger, gnawing at your mind. Did you really see the child? Or was it something else? Was it a trick of the light? A moment of weakness in your mind? And if it was true, if the child really was there, what happens when you finally break eye contact? When you dare to look away? The fear of the child lies in the unknown, in the fear of what comes next. No one knows what happens when you break eye contact. No one knows what happens when you finally look away. The stories are inconsistent, each one darker than the last, and all of them end in silence. There are those who claim to have looked away and walked away unscathed, but their stories are rare. The majority, those who have dared to defy the child, are never heard from again. Their voices are swallowed up by the darkness, leaving behind nothing but empty rooms, shattered mirrors, and the echo of their final scream. There are those who say that once you look into the child's eyes, there is no escape. The child takes a piece of you, not physically, but spiritually. A part of your soul is drawn into the mirror, and from that moment on, you are forever tethered to it. You can never leave. You can never be free. But some are not so easily deterred. They continue to search for answers. They look into the mirror over and over again, convinced that they can break the curse, that they can conquer the fear. They believe that if they face the child enough times, they will find a way to break its hold on them. But what they don't realize is that the child is always watching. And with each encounter, it becomes stronger, more powerful, feeding off their fear. The grip of the child tightens, squeezing the life from them, until they are nothing more than hollow shells, walking through life with empty eyes, forever haunted by that first glance into the mirror. And still, the legend persists. Passed down from generation to generation, it grows stronger, more terrifying with each telling. It becomes a warning, a curse, a fate worse than death. For those who dare to challenge it, the fear grows deeper, darker. It's not just the child you have to worry about. It's the mirror itself. The mirror, with its endless reflection, its dark depths, is alive. It watches you, waits for you to look. It feeds on your curiosity, your fear, and it will never let you go once you've stepped into its world. The question remains, can you survive it? The next time you find yourself standing in front of a mirror in the dead of night, with the silence of the world pressing in around you, think carefully. The child might be closer than you think. And once you look into its empty eyes, there may be no turning back. Some have tried to outsmart it, tried to trick themselves into thinking they are safe, but the child is always there, lurking, waiting for you to look. And when you do, you may find yourself unable to resist. You may look into your reflection, and for a split second, see something different, something far more terrifying than you could have ever imagined. So, the next time the clock strikes 4:44 a.m., and you find yourself standing in front of a mirror, remember the stories, remember the child, and remember that some things are better left unexplored. Because once you make eye contact, there may be no escaping the darkness that follows. The child is waiting. Its eyes, empty and endless, beckon. And in that quiet, silent moment, when the clock strikes 4:44, you might find yourself unable to resist. You might look into your reflection, and for that brief, terrifying instant, you will see something more than your own face. You will see the child, standing just behind you, its eyes locked onto yours. And then, with a final breath, you will realize it's too late. You've already made your choice. And now, there's no turning back. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's terrifying story. If it sent shivers down your spine, don't forget to like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more heart-stopping tales. Stay cautious, stay alert, and always trust your gut. After all, you never know what could be waiting just out of your view.